Hi everybody, welcome to episode 81 of the Run to the Hills podcast, sponsored by Chia Charge. Chia Charge have been fueling adventures with real food made with real ingredients since 2012. Go and check them out at www.chiacharge.co.uk. Oh, I always have to do a deep breath after my intro, Eddie. I think actors, do they like...
I was just going to say, you didn't do your Lambda training. I did all these drama training stuff at school where you like learn how to
loosen the lips.
And I tried to make the kid like the kids do, like a bit of theatre. And I'm like, so you have to make your breath last the whole sentence. They're like, shut up. Oh my God. I think like opera singers, they're quite large, aren't they? Tend to be a bit of a breath. You have to be quite fit because you've got to support the rib cage, haven't you?
Yes.
You've also had quite, we're actually, unusually, we haven't had any Chia Charge bars today, but you had a vat of coffee.
So it was so big, the cup, it had two handles.
That would push me over the edge.
I just think you can have a large coffee.
Why not tea? What chose? Oh, Costa's really strong too.
It was nice.
Madness.
When I saw the double handle cup come out, I was a bit stressed out. If I'm a bit kind of twitchy this week.
Or old man pee breaks all the way through this because
goodness
me. A double handle.
But yeah, apart from feeling a bit crackers on coffee, and I had a really good weekend, but we'll get up to that in a bit, I suppose. How are you, Eddie? How have you been this week?
You've got loads of exciting stuff to say. I haven't got anything exciting to say at all. I feel like I've been a bit Groundhog Day, same old. Evil. Yes, I did have a good week last week though. I got a bit too much running in. I got a little bit doed off, too much running. I had a really busy week. I got a lot of work to do, and so running is just so much more time efficient than skiing. And so when I was like, I could just 2-hour run fits here so much easier than a 4-hour ski. But so it ended up being quite a lot of miles. I think in the end it was about 75 miles and about 10,000 feet, plus all the other stuff. But I felt good. But it's a bit dangerous to ramp up the volume too quickly. I had my 5x12, we know that, and then I did my longest run so far this year, about 33k, and I did that. So I ignored my coach's advice, which we realize is a recurring theme in this podcast. He said do the uphill on treadmill, and I was like, I don't want to do it outside in the mountains, and also it's such a long session, it really tires out the dogs, and then they just lie in the stupor all day, and it's a joy. And so I was like, I'm gonna do it. But then my lower limbs were so sore because the snow's not hard anymore, it's just slushy.
Okay.
And then I had to do my long run, and I decided I wasn't going to go on the slush. I was going to run it on road. And it hurt. And he was like, do flattish. So it still had 800 meters of climbing in it. Just like, that's flat round here for a 32k. That was quite flat. It's undulating, nothing mega, but my legs were sore, really sore. And then the next day was meant to be like a 90-minute run and then a 3-hour ski. But I just wasn't, very rarely, I'm like unmotivated to ski. I love skiing, but I've lost the mojo the last few weeks of the skiing. I think the snow is not great. It's all like muddy and we haven't had any snow. So it's either fake snow or crappy snow or icy, not even icy anymore. So it's not that much fun. Haven't got any mates. Slightly dangerous.
Oh my goodness, it's supposed to be a pick-me-up, Eddie.
So in the end, I didn't ski and I just did more running. I just was like, I'll just keep running to make up for the fact I'm not doing any skiing. So the next day then I did 25k, 26k. I felt really good. I think for me, I'm so old and I've run so much now, as long as I get the fuel in, I think I could just keep, I could churn out these long runs every day. I don't think they're very good for you. Obviously, then by the weekend, I was pretty tired. But I ticked off all my sessions. I did my progressive run then on the Sunday, and I did it on the Sunday morning instead of the Sunday night, because we all know that the dread of the session on Sunday night never ends in happiness. So I ticked that off and getting that a little bit faster. 6-minute mile on a treadmill to me like on the road as like a tempo fast bit of running feels quite comfortable. On the treadmill, I feel like I'm going to fall off. It feels so
out of control.
It feels out of control. And I keep like almost, and if anybody comes in or talks to me, I'm like, oh my God, no. I can't go any fast. That's the limit. And then you see people running like, I did that for like 20 miles. And I'm like, I just fall off the treadmill. It honestly feels like sprinting. But I did manage to rack it up to a few 6-minute mile paces. So a good week, but a little weary. And so I will now. Well, now I've got ill child at home, so I can't ski again. But hopefully, a little bit more skiing or biking. I could sit on my bike, but I feel once I start putting more running in, I get a bit addicted to the running. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you start getting those miles and you get sessions.
Nothing replaces running for people who don't do that.
And it feels so good. When you're going well, it feels so good. But it's almost like you have to pay the piper. We've said this before, haven't you? Because I'm like, I know this, and I know my body, and I know that this is unsustainable, but it feels so good at the moment. So I'm just going to
when you have a session, your coach has set you, what's the dialogue? Do you say beforehand, I'm not going to do that session, or is it afterwards you're just waiting for the scolding?
Sometimes, well, he was off doing Pyramenta, this big ski race last week. So I was left, I was like, maybe he'll never even notice. I think that's why I went out of control, because I knew he'd be like, he might
sidetracked.
He'll be sidetracked, so he won't know. I don't like to bother him, so I just get on. I have a choice of like varying sessions. So, which I just love. So I can choose all these different sessions. Like today, when I've got an ill child at home. So instead I just went into treadmill, and then there's like 3 or 4 different sessions I can choose, and I just choose one. So it's great. So it's really flexible. And he's super cool. He's like, whatever.
I think that's awesome. That's one good thing about being coached, that it maybe takes the guesswork away from, say, myself. If I had to juggle those things, I'm always, especially with the bike at the moment, how do I weave all that in? And it would be nice to have somebody else just to go, Gary, do that or do this.
It's funny because I was working really late on Sunday night. We had a busy weekend with the ski races, and so then everything really, really late on Sunday night, and I got into bed and I was like, I haven't even planned what I'm going to do next week. I'm going to look and see what I've got to do. And then I reorder like when I'm going to do it and stuff. It's like, this is the beauty of having somebody else to do it to me, because I've just gone through like everybody else's plans and my brain is fried, and I would end up not doing it. So it is the beauty, but it's really flexible too, which works for me. Some people need that rigidity just need to be told. But with my life and with all the different seasons and everything, I love the flexibility.
What did I do? I was at the Haworth Hobble, which was really good. And it was a bit of a run to the hills past guest reunion, Eddie. It was fantastic. As I went into the school, I think it is in Haworth, so bumped into Dougie's Innes, who
Did you recognise him?
I felt such a prat. I'd introduced myself as Gary from the podcast. What a dumbass. But he did. Once I said podcast, I think he knew who I was. So that was wicked. Bear in mind, he was second at the Spine.
And it was he racing?
He was racing, and he had a really good race. I'm not too sure of his times, but I saw on his social media afterwards, he PB'd on the course. So that was good. And another guest, Charlie Parkinson, bumped into Charlie too on course, which I was surprised to go past Charlie on any course, to be honest. But he wasn't having a great day. And I saw him in the village in the school afterwards. And, fair play to him. He finished the race, which a lot of people might not have done. But it's never nice to see somebody who's not having a good day.
No, it's horrible, isn't it? Even if it's somebody that you quite like to beat.
Well, Charlie, what was it, 17 or 18 hours Bob Graham round, so he's got some legs on him. So yeah, he didn't have the best of days,
Was he just tired, or?
Yeah, I think he's probably fatigue, and then his head went. I think that was it. When you're not supposed to do new things on race day, well, I did a few new things on race day, and which was good because this was a race, but it wasn't like an air race. I thought it was a really good time to test these things. Anyway, the first thing was I taped up my knee with some KT tape.
Is this just random taping? Did you just put tape like all over it, or did
Yeah,
you
just out the kitchen drawer. Yeah. Well, I had some
cling film, oil?
2016 or something. I found this roll of KT tape that I had in the cupboard. So I taped my knee up, just a YouTube video, and that got me through the race, which was amazing considering kind of Thursday, Friday. I was thinking, I don't know how this is going to hold up. And 31 mile, and it was fine. But what did happen was, because I was leading with my right leg quite a lot, going down and going up, I feel my kind of right knee's a bit sore now.
For sure. Yeah.
But got through the race, and that's exactly what it was supposed to do. And now I can kind of rest for a week or two as far as any running is concerned. And we've been really lucky. The guys from Precision Hydration have sent us some bits and bobs to try out before they come on the show. So I was fortunate enough. I tried the 1,500, the pH drink. Day before, the electrolyte one. I had some of that on the evening, on the Friday night, and on the Saturday morning to the race, and then I used the 90 gram of carb.
I also used this on my long run for the first time. What was your first thought when you put it in your mouth? You were racing.
Yeah.
So I was proper product testing.
I wasn't racing, to be fair.
So you didn't have it sprayed everywhere all over your face or your hands, and you only managed to get like a tiny bit in, and then you threw it on the ground and went,
Well, it was awesome because you could twist the top for one. So there was none of that race kind of tearing up the packet admin.
Me, it didn't taste of anything. I squirted it into my mouth and I was like, this is great. I could have had the whole pouch at once, but I was a bit nervous to take on 90 grams of carb.
Well, that's my only thing. And I don't know how they would do this, because how do I know that I'm safe? I'd like to take that over an hour, basically.
Yeah.
So I could maybe.
That's what I did with mine. I did it.
But just being a bit of a numpty, maybe I took only, say, 10 grams of carb on the first go, and then another 10 the second go, and then I took the rest of it on the last.
Yeah, but you could take you can work it out.
I know. Yeah, if I was just a bit more.
I get that. I think you could probably transfer it maybe into a different pack. But I think that's a really, really good feedback to them, to say if it was in a clearer, if it had a clear bit.
Yeah, a clear thing with a little label on the side.
You've earned your money already, Gary. That was big for you to try 90 grams of carb in an hour. When I know you said you weren't racing, but you're going to be moving faster than if you're having a jolly with Neil. And I wasn't moving, I was definitely in my endurance mode. So I didn't really notice, I felt the energy was good, but I didn't notice any stomach issues because my heart rate wasn't super high.
My stomach wasn't great all day. We don't want to give too much information away.
You can all guess. You're such a child, Gary. I don't want to give too much information, but
I already have. But I would say, so next time will be the Old County Tops, is another long day out on the trails. And I think, so that was, say, 90 grams of carb in the hour, plus, say, energy I was getting from a drink. So maybe I was up to about 100 grams of carb in that hour. I think next time, I'm going to go down to 60 next time with a drink too, just to maybe my stomach can tolerate a bit more. And that may be why I didn't feel so great in the Bob Graham run, because I was literally consuming a whole Kendall mint cake bar per hour. So
you've got to keep water going in as well. Often the stomach it's not actually the energy going in, it's the dehydration that then you can't absorb.
But this could be something we bring up with them. I wonder if they've noticed the difference between, say, if you're a cyclist, is it easier to consume 90 grams?
Easier to consume energy.
So that'd be interesting.
Notes, Gary, I hope you have to feed that back. But one of the reasons, dear listeners, we contacted them was because I'm already thinking and planning about my spine fueling and getting a fear about, I don't want to be just living on sweet stuff for 2 weeks or however long it takes me. But also you have to be realistic, don't you, that you're going to have to be, you can't carry a lovely savoury scone.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with that gel. We'll have more feedback, and I would definitely use the gels again.
Sun came out too, the sun came out towards the second part of the race, and it did get quite warm, and I had no, say, cramping issues or anything after the race. I'm tired because it was a super early start. But other than that, my body feels.
Tell us the result.
Well, Neil and I, we were very fortunate enough to win the first male pair.
Incredible. What an achievement. So did you have to cross the line holding hands? How did they judge you?
Oh yeah, holding hands. We run the whole thing holding hands, Eddie. It was.
Oh, sorry.
But what was awesome, right? So we started the race. We were just chugging along together, chatting away, moaning about how unfit we are and stuff like this, or where we are compared to where we wish we were.
Yeah.
And then we came to, I think, just up towards the last checkpoint, and one of the children of one of the grown-ups at the checkpoint said, "Oh, your second pair." And we were like, "Oh my goodness!" And I was just, "Oh, thanks for that. Do you know how far ahead the first pair are?" And she was like, "Oh, about 30 seconds away." So we deployed race tactics after that, and it was awesome.
Tactics? What did you do? Drop hands?
Yeah, well, basically stuff like, so we caught up to them maybe about 50 meters behind so we could see them. So I was like to Neil, "Look, how much do you want it? Do you want to drive home tonight, second or first?" Basically.
Oh, I love it, Gary. I don't see this side of Gary very much.
And I told him a fib. I think he sussed me out. He's a clever guy. I'm like, "Have you seen the size of the trophy, Neil? We've got to win this trophy." But yeah, he rumbled me there. But I was saying things like, when they walk, we run for another 10 seconds, just slowly. We had about 5 miles. It was perfect.
Oh, perfect. So when did you overtake them?
Or maybe a couple of miles to go, and I took another toilet break, and Neil just passed them. It was quite good how it happened. So I went to the loo, and Neil just carried on. So we passed them, and we didn't really look like a pair. It was quite. And then I caught Neil up.
No idea. They have no idea. They've been diddled.
And then when we got past them, I just was like, "Look, we've got to kind of get a bit of distance now between them." So we put a spurt on, and we looked behind it, and they were kind of nowhere to be seen. So it was pretty good. We thought, "Excellent, this is awesome. We've done it." And I'm not joking. Some of them must have
Someone
told
said
them
how
what
big the trophy was.
Yeah. So when we went in, we dibbed the tracker, and then I just kind of turned around, and like about 30, it seemed like about 30 seconds, but it turns out on the results about 50 seconds later they came in. So it was pretty tight, and it was awesome. Just, we had no aspirations for that, and then just that last, say, 5 whatever miles of the day turned into a race with a positive finish, and it was brilliant to come away with another little plaque. I do a good line in little glass plaques. So yeah, first male pairs. We weren't first pairs. I can't remember who won that, but awesome.
Done. What a start to the year.
Yeah, another trophy. Lent is going well. I didn't have a donut on course, which annoyed me a bit. And then I messed up at the end. I picked one up. I just completely forgot. I picked one up to eat the donut, and so I had a donut.
Is it on Sunday or Saturday?
Saturday. Oh, Lisa told me about this. You can have a bit of grace on a Sunday.
Yeah, I think baby Jesus would have let you a bit of grace. You got a trophy. You worked quite hard.
So yeah, awesome. All in all, a super easy week building up to that, trying to get my knee.
How is the knee now after the race?
Yes, it's not so great at the moment.
You know what would help massively is to get some treatment on it.
That's not going to happen.
Why not? Why wouldn't
I'm going to have a super easy week. Well, I can have super.
It's going on now. It's been going on a few weeks, and frankly, I'll be looking
only because I keep running on it.
Well, yeah, exactly. Everyone's listening to this going, "Do you remember people that used to really annoy us on podcasts that would be like we're into them and they'd carry on running? You're one of those people."
Well, let's see how this week goes. I'm not going to run this week. I'll be on the bike.
If it's still hurting next week, we're going to start a crowd fund for your physio treatment.
Gary to the
or
physio.
if there's a physio listening that lives near Gary, we'll give you a free shout out on the podcast if you could just tell him to take a bit of rest.
I just need to rest it. It's simple as that. It's needed, and now I can rest it. So that's what I'm going to pop in the bike.
What's next on the books for you?
Old county tops. So like I say, but training for Lakeland 100 doesn't start for 3 weeks really. So be lots of gentle running, lots of time on the bike. But race wise, I think middle of May is all county tops. So that will be a little tester to see where we are at. But I think we were talking about this on the race on Saturday. And I think my level of fitness is probably somewhere back to where I was in 2016, if I gauge how I feel now.
Yeah, but what you have to remember is you have that huge volume in between then and now. So when you actually are fit and healthy and you dig back in and you ask yourself some questions, you get fitter so much quicker. Your body remembers so much quicker. So though you might be like, oh, I'm really unfit, it'll take you no time at all to get back. You just need to get healthy.
Let's hope so.
Race results. It's not just all about you, Gary. Goodness me. Chester Ultra. Michael Young won in 7:04. Melinda Marshall in 8:39. I think that's quite flat, Chester Ultra. I might be wrong.
Not too sure, but thanks for Melinda bringing that to our attention. Great to see you.
She was absolutely well chuffed, wasn't she? She put some pictures on Facebook. Go and have a look. She did amazing, and looks like a good day out. Weather looks nice, so well done. Yeah. Well done, everybody who did Chester Ultra.
And then down to the Howth Hobble, Donnie Clark took the win, 4 hours and 9 minutes. So just to put that in context, my time, I think, was 5:54. So we weren't competitive. So Donnie, yeah, my goodness me, he'd had his
Donnie
pizza.
had his donuts by the time.
Gone home. And Kate Archer took the win for the ladies in 5 hours, 11 minutes and 18 seconds.
I always get the rage in some of the shorter trail races I do that the guys that have won are changed in their tracksuits and come back up the course and are cheering like their girlfriends or something as I'm finishing. I'm like, how far ahead are you? Oh my God.
Well, best part of an hour and a half, Donnie was ahead of us. So he's
shower, changed, had a snack, go and find the girlfriend. The sideway D33 54K Ultra. Robbie Simpson, Adidas sponsored athlete, won this in 3 hours 30. Charlotte Black in 4 hours 24. And shout out to Nicola Dawson, former guest of the show, who came in third. So great start to her season. I think that's quite flat, that race. But a nice little opener for people that are maybe looking towards the Fling or the West Highland Way, getting a few miles under their legs.
Yeah, great. Well done, everybody. This week we talk to Steve Birkinshaw. I don't really think Steve needs much of an introduction, actually, Eddie. And sometimes when people say kind of don't meet your heroes and stuff like that, well, I really enjoyed having a chat with Steve. It was wonderful.
I was a little bit daunted by him because I'd listened to his book actually, and his achievements, and so he's written No Map in Hell, which is all about his record-breaking Wainwright attempt. But the limits he pushed himself to in that book is superhuman and horrendous. And then meeting him, I was like, and then you meet him and he's just such a quiet, humble, down to earth, but obviously got a good dry sense of humor as well. Hello, Steve. How are you? Where are you? And have you been for a run today?
Yeah, I'm very well. I'm in the Lake District, sitting at home, looking out the window, looking at Clough Head, which is one of the fells. I haven't been for a run today. No, I'm not really a morning person. I really struggle to get up and get going in the morning. I know some people get up at 6 and go for their early morning run. That's not me. So normally my run's in the middle of the day to make the most of the daylight.
So we're recording this about, it's 10 o'clock in the UK, isn't it? So this is quite early for you, Steve. So you're going to do very well holding the conversation with us now.
Yeah, it's quite early. I mean, I normally get up. I'm really bad at getting up at 8:30 and then not do much the first hour because my mind takes a while to get going. And so I'm just about okay now. Okay.
Are you a coffee or a tea person, Steve?
I am a tea. I've got my tea in front of me here.
Oh, you're our best friend already.
With a big mug, of course.
Yes. I'm too scared to go outside. I really want a cup of tea, but I've shut the door on the chaos outside. If I go out, I'll never come back in.
I know you work from home, Steve. Was it quite hard to structure your day because you don't physically go off to a place of work? Do you think it's quite fluid, your days?
It is fluid, yeah. I mean, it's hard. There's no one sort of telling me I have to start exactly at 9, so it can be quite hard. But I mostly enjoy my work, so it's mostly not too bad. And sometimes the difficulty is turning off at night because I'm sort of still thinking about it and still sort of wondering what to do and trying a few things out when I should just be not doing any work. So probably won't do too much rather than too little.
Now, I've listened to the book, so I know the answer to this next question. But for our listeners who haven't read your book, could you share with us your running journey?
So is that the whole of my running career?
Well, yeah, I suppose the
a short vignette of how you find yourself, your sort of running, early running experience.
Yeah, so I started orienteering by myself when I was about 7, and that was on my main sport until I probably early 20s. But as well as doing that, I was doing fell races and enjoying the long distance fell races. And then I sort of gave up the orienteering and started doing longer fell races and built up to longer things like the Bob Graham rounds of 24 hours running, and then Dragon's Back race. So that's sort of 300 miles over 5 days. And then so the pinnacle, which is what a lot of the book's about, is me doing the Wainwright. So that's 6.5 days of running, 50 miles a day. 5,000 meters climb a day. So that was that's what most of the book's about, and how I sort of built up to that over my lifetime of running, which is probably 35 years of training quite hard.
Would that be something that would interest you now, the orienteering, or is that literally something in the past?
No, actually, I've sort of we found my sort of love of the sport in many ways. I've always enjoyed it. And I'm just doing the local events, but I'm really enjoying that now. I'm sure you'll come on to it at some point, but since the Wainwrights, I've struggled a bit, and the orienteering is just something that I really enjoy doing, and I find really satisfying.
Is it quite a mix? I have a friend, they do orienteering, and it seems to be more urban. Is that true? There's some that you could be in a city centre and some on the fells.
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, so I live in the Lake District, so it's mostly on the fells. But my mum lives in Manchester, and most of her orienteering is now sort of around the city. It's quite technical because you've got lots of little buildings, and it's quite sort of fast moving.
Have you ever seen orienteering races?
I used to orienteer when I was at school. I orienteered for Devon when I was at school.
Excellent.
I don't know why it was Devon, because we were in Dorset, but I had a keen house mistress that used to take us down with this like really tight blue suit. And basically what I did, and I think Steve slightly refers to it in his book, is that I just followed people. I just raced people around. I had the map and I'd be like, yeah, that's it. Oh, the competitive side in it. But I love the way, and it's definitely, when you talk about it in your book, Steve, the orienteering sparks, it's the first sort of inkling we get of your determination and your stubborn doggedness that you don't give up. And you get the rage, which I recognise in my children a lot, when you can't find routes and you go the wrong way. And I love that in the book that you go right back from the start, and almost the first. Well, I listened to the book, so I kind of think like the first couple of hours is all sort of like the lead up to how you became who you were when you started your Wainwrights, and you almost need that bit, because then when you're explaining every day of your Wainwrights, you can see where you're coming from, and the strength that you've developed sort of over those years. Before we get into all that, I've digressed a bit. Gary is desperate to know, and I don't know why I have to ask this, Gary, about your day job and what exactly is hydrology. And we so want to know. We've even been discussing it before you came on the podcast. So what do you actually think this is? Can you tell us a little bit about it? Put Gary's mind at rest.
Yeah, so hydrology, I guess, is a study of water. So I'm one particular aspect of it, which is I do computer modeling, basically. So I model how the water rainfall goes into the soil, through the soils, into rivers, and over the ground, and causes sort of flooding. And I can predict then, I haven't explained that very well, but I can predict sort of what will happen if the climate changes or if the land use changes, and how that will affect the flooding issues. And a big part of my work at the moment as well is looking at sort of urban flooding. So if you put a new building in the city, how that will affect all the flow paths around it.
It was right, Eddie.
Oh, you were so right. So if land developers, is that the right word, want to build like a new estate, do they have to take somebody like you on to go, how will this affect, Bill and Joan down the road?
Exactly. I mean, within the UK now, actually, if you build a new estate, you have to make sure that it's not going to increase the amount of flooding that's going to go on. So any new estate will have a little model of the water flows around that estate. I tend to look at the bigger picture, like the whole of the city, and see how that will affect how the estate or flows in and out of the estate will be affected as well. So,
well, I wish they'd give you a job at the estate they built near where I live, Steve, because let's just say when it rains, the local trails are a lot wetter than they used to be.
I mean, there's a couple of issues, and there's more intense rain now, and a lot of the upland farmland has got degraded as well, which makes the flooding a lot worse.
Removal of hedgerows, deforestation.
Yeah, damage of like the
geography A level is all coming flooding back. do you think do you think your work in hydrology and that sort of system that you used helped you create your plan for your Wainwright's maps?
Probably not in itself, but it's the same sort of, the way my mind works means it's good for both, if you see what I mean. So working out how to get computer models working and looking at sort of numbers a whole day and maps a whole day. It's the same thing when I looked at Wainwright's and looked at 214 dots and trying to join them all together in the best possible way. I guess my mind's quite attuned to that. I've got that sort of geeky nature that likes to do that.
I didn't want to say that. I was.
We come on to the book now. I really like the name of the book, Steve, but I don't think you got the memo when they come out to name books. We've got Feet in the Clouds, Born to Run, Ultramarathon Man. These are very uplifting titles. And then you've gone, No Map in Hell. What? Did you not see the memo? How did you come up with the name?
Well, that's quite interesting how the name appeared. So I was thinking of writing this book. I wasn't sure. So I went to talk to a friend, and our kids were there playing, because our kids were quite young at that time. They're playing a computer game. And one of the games they were playing had maps showing them where they were. And they were saying, oh, there's this part of the area called Hell. And one of them said, look, there's no map in Hell. And this friend said, oh, that's a great title for a book. And then I thought about it, because I actually quite liked it, because I think of it as like an instruction. So there's no map. I think of maps as sort of, the way I look at a map is like an instruction. So it's like a set of details about what you can do. So there's no map, there's no instructions to tell you how to get out of it. So when you're going through hell, like on the Wainwrights, when you've got like, you're free to completely blistered and you're going through hell, there's no instruction manual to tell you how to do it. You've got to do it yourself and work out how to cope with that pain. So that's sort of, it's nice on both levels.
Yeah, it's great.
And obviously maps have been a part of my life since I was sort of 7 or 8.
And for folk who have yet to read or listen to the book, what is the book about?
It's very simple. It's about my journey. So the first half is about my journey up to being able to run super long distances on the fells. And then the second half is an account of me running around the Wainwright Fells over 6.5 days. And I thought about this when I was writing it, thinking, gosh, it's going to be really boring. So it's not just my thoughts, it's the people around me as well. Yeah. So you've got my wife, the support team who helped me, because it's not just an individual effort, it's a team thing, really. It's like 50 odd people helping you around. So it's their sort of views as well, just try and make it a bit more interesting. So I climbed this hill, I went down this hill, I climbed this hill. That really would be boring. So
I really loved how different people jumped into the book as it progressed. I thought it was great addition.
It helps you like the characters as well, and I love the way that you sell it to most of them as like a holiday in the Lake District. And you say it on and I go, it was nothing like that at all.
Yes, so the Jane Saul, who's like the lead support person, yes, I did sell it to her like that. And it was, 2 weeks off work for her, full time trying to help me. And all the support team just got so tired as well. It wasn't just me, it was like them, because they were surviving on a couple of hours sleep a night.
Even as support for say Bob Graham round, which, for 24 hours, especially the road crew, that's quite an exhausting, like I say, that is literally just one day. I was surprised, Dave, though, the little bits we know about you, you seem quite meticulous, but you did seem quite relaxed when it came to the whole crew side of your journey. Is that typical kind of how you separate things in your life, how you approach things?
Yeah. So some things I can be meticulous, as you say, like preparing the route and stuff. But I was worried about the support thing because you can be really precise and say, I want these 3 people here at 7 o'clock on this morning. But then I could be 3 or 4 hours late, and they'd be just hanging around for 3 or 4 hours. So it's really hard to be precise and careful about that. So there needs to be some sort of flexibility there, which is probably why it looks like I was a bit relaxed about it, because generally people will turn up if they can. It's a great running community in the Lake District, and they'll turn up and people will sort of randomly turn up. So I was hopeful it would sort of all work out like that.
Chap who had his phone waiting for his wife to give birth, that you never mentioned if she did actually ring when you were out.
So yeah, I think it was about a week later that she said yes.
She was very understanding. I'm not sure.
She was, yes.
Let my husband loose on the fells. Perhaps his last taste of freedom.
I've got to thank you though, Steve. We've got some new little challenges. Well, they're not necessarily little, but I wasn't really fully aware of the Hewitts, the Marilyns, the Nuttalls and the Burkitts. So we're going for some of those. Really a good little nugget there, definitely. Yeah,
I think there's some people some people are going there trying to get new records for some of these things coming up or have done recently. So yeah, there's lots of different rounds in the Lake District, that's for sure.
One of the things I loved about your book, Steve, was the realism in it. I love running books. I read a lot of them, and I consume quite a lot of like running media stuff as well. And I often think us ultra runners sometimes portray things as a little bit too easy, and you see it and you think, you just see the glamour basically, but this definitely not glamorous, your book at all. When you look back on it now, and the memories of that amazing week, do you still feel that pain, or is it more like the achievement that sort of comes through in your memories?
Yeah, exactly. The pain goes over time, which is, I guess, why I think probably the same with most ultra runners. You forget all the agony, all the hours and hours of running on blisters, or just agony of running, and all you remember are the good things in a few years' time. And that's all I remember. I can't actually remember the pain of going downhill with massive blisters.
Well, if you read back on like chapter 22, it's fully explained.
Very clear.
Yeah, so I'll have to go back and read it again just to sort of remind myself of the pain, because I've just forgotten it. All I can remember is, the great feeling, the great sort of camaraderie of the people I'm running with, running into Keswick at the end, sort of with my wife and kids, and the moot hall, just hundreds of people sort of congratulating me as I run in. So.
Because when you were in the build-up to the event, you were quite nervous about getting the media involved and contacting companies and sort of putting it out there. But as you sort of go through the week, you're probably not even aware of it, but you really actually rely on those people to support you. And then almost it comes across that those the people that then join you, they really lift you on that last day and make it what it is, really.
Yeah. It's a difficult balance, because I'm not sort of a media savvy person that loves contacting all these companies and getting sort of free kit. I much prefer just to run by myself. But as you say, the fact there is a social media, the fact they've got a tracker so everyone knows exactly where I am. And the last 2 days, people were coming out to the top of the hills and congratulating me and bringing me food. And then the last day, loads of people. It sort of a sense of a carnival atmosphere. That did really, really lift me. So you're right. It is it's a double-edged sort of thing that I'm happy to just run by myself. But it was really nice the way it all happened.
And you never lost your cool. You said you actually say there's only 3 times when people annoyed you throughout the whole thing, because I'd be like, I would be raging probably and grumpy at people, but you said you managed to sort of control that and always be like cheerful. Emma might have a different story as to what went on in the camper van, but you managed to keep your cool, and you said that actually the best bit was when you were out just running with your mates on the fells.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think I was happy because obviously it was hurting, but generally I was going to plan, I was on schedule, things were going right. Nothing badly went wrong. We never got badly lost. There was always someone with me who needed to be with me at any point. So it all went quite smoothly. In that respect, there wasn't, that's why I didn't really get cross or angry. And I'm quite a calm person normally, particularly when I'm running, it all actually went well.
You helped Paul Tini with his record attempt, sharing the routes and your knowledge. I always think it's wonderful when like a record holder goes and helps somebody who's making an attempt. Do you think that was your way of maybe saying, a big kind of thank you to the community, similar to, like, say with the Bob Graham round? Once you almost like you enter into like this unwritten agreement, you'll go and support maybe people who've at least supported you on your Bob Graham round. Do you think that was partly what you were hoping to do?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's a tradition within these trail running records that you help anyone that needs help and they will help you. So it's definitely, when Paul came and talked to me, we had a cup of tea in a cafe, and I was very supportive, and he would have done the same to me. In fact, he has. Obviously, he's helped other people as well. So it's just a nice camaraderie of group of people that you're actually helping each other break the records and just extend what we can do. Because if you're doing it by yourself, there's no way you get anywhere close to the sort of times we're doing. You do rely on other people.
Do you, when you hear about somebody's doing a Wainwright, do you think just waiting for the phone to ring or the email to?
Yeah, exactly.
Book ready, I'd be like, you read the book first and then we'll chat. Yeah,
there's definitely, I do hear about it probably quite early on that someone's sort of thinking about having another attempt. Then, yeah, I'm sort of expecting, or hoping actually that someone will ask me, and then I will obviously do everything I can to help them.
The routes, it has evolved. There's Alan Heath and Josh Neal and yourself. Did Paul and Sabrina were they faithful to your route, or did they adapt it slightly for themselves?
Paul was pretty much exactly the same as my route. So Sabrina she broke the record on her 4th attempt. So she made a few more tweaks. There's one mountain called Seat Sandal, which I put in the wrong place. So I put it in the wrong section. So she corrected that, which saves about 10 or 15 minutes probably. And there's a few others that are, say, Scorefell, Pike and Lingbell. You can take the other way around, a few like that. But it's a matter of opinion which is better or not. So she's done a few tweaks like that and a few little better lines as well. So she sort of improved it a little bit. It's not much different though. It's like 95% the same as what I did.
Is that is it the traveling salesman problem? I think you mentioned that in the book, or I heard it somewhere. Has anybody ever physically applied to the Wainwrights? Yeah,
so there's a couple. This lecturer from Manchester University physics department contacted me and said he's had a couple of students that were interested in it, and they went ahead and actually calculated. I thought it would be hard, but the way the technology's changed it must be 7 years since I did the Wainwrights. The mapping ability and the mapping sort of availability has improved since then. So they went ahead and found the better route, and it might be slightly better. It was sort of slightly shorter, but had a bit more climb.
Okay.
But people are still using my route, I think, because it's not just a matter of the distance and the time, it's splitting it into sensible sections of legs. So, and getting sort of certain sections done early on, which is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the hard sections early on where it's really rocky. Everyone's still using my route, so I assume that route will now be the one that sort of everyone will use. The other reason why it's better now is because there are sort of split times available. When I did it, I had to sort of guess how long each section was going to take. But now people know quite well because it's been done enough times. So if you just did a completely new route, you'd have to work all that out again, which would be quite a big job. It'd be really hard, almost impossible to kind of pitch one route against the other, really, because there's so many variables with, my goodness, the weather, or maybe just the after effects of the weather underfoot. I don't think you could ever really successfully say which is the best. I agree. as you say, the weather, just the different people at different times, and the amount of support you've got. As you say, it's impossible to tell. Maybe sometimes someone will have a go at this different route, and we'll see. But
it's such a long time though. You got to put to 5K and it doesn't go right. You can go, well, I'll do it next week.
Yes.
No. For people that are listening, perhaps, and they can't really understand the magnitude of this, it's the equivalent of doing 5 Bob Graham rounds, isn't it, back to back? And you sort of calculated that you were moving. Your actual moving time was under 24-hour record pace the whole time. That is how well Steve was moving throughout this record. Once we, I'm trying not to talk too much about the book because obviously we want people to buy it and read it. So, but another section of the book I really enjoyed was, I'm sorry, this is bad to say I enjoyed it, but is the aftermath bit of the come down, the ultra come down, which if you've ever done an ultra race or a marathon or anything sort of a big challenge, the come down is real afterwards. But your come down had quite a knock on in the rest of your life as well. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of the sort of post, the close post, how you felt sort of a week after, and then the sort of long-term effects as well?
Yeah.
Learn it as well.
The first 2 weeks, well, you feel elated. I felt elated the first couple of days, and then there's a big dip, big blue, and you just feel. For me, I felt, oh, why did I take so long? Why is everyone so impressed?
No.
I should have done it a bit faster. I don't know. It's just really weird things like that. And then the body's trying to recover, so you're not sleeping well. All the fluid you retained in your legs is going, and the blisters recovering. That, as well as that, I was feeling really, my body felt all right, but I couldn't think straight. And that was a bit odd. And I think, oh, well, that'll get better soon. And then over the next year, that didn't really get better. I was still a bit sort of vague, particularly in the morning. And well, running a lot, and gradually I sort of started getting better again afterwards, but then I started getting worse again. So about 12 months later, things started getting really bad. So I was basically getting tired the whole time, couldn't really do much work, couldn't sleep very well, just dizzy, and I basically get some sort of chronic fatigue type thing. So that was its worst about 2 years later afterwards. So whether it was caused by the waning lights, I don't know, but I was okay beforehand. And 2 years later, I was still really bad. And then I had to sort of work out what to do, and went to the doctor for lots of tests, but there was nothing really sort of they found. So they just say, oh, well, you've got sort of chronic fatigue, which didn't really help a lot. So I had to work out sort of what was causing it. And basically I had to live the perfect lifestyle. So, started eating, really, really healthy food, no alcohol, made sure I had 8 or 9 hours sleep every night, got rid of all the stresses in my life, and started off running sort of 10 or 15 minutes really slowly. And over a couple of years, I built that back up and started to feel all right again. So for 5 years later, I was probably pretty much back to normal. But then there was the other side of things as well, because then my heart started getting these heart issues as well. Now, whether that's related or not, I don't know. So I've got this thing called atrial fibrillation, which sometimes I get random heartbeats. And then that sort of lasts about 24 hours and it goes back to normal. So that's still sort of bothering me a bit. So it's been a lot of little things, or not little things, big things.
How would the erratic heartbeat, maybe if there's some listeners out there, and I've got a couple of friends who've had electrical issues with their heart, and it's really adjusted the way they've had to live their life, from trivial things like not drinking coffee, but to watching how they exercise too. Yeah, how would that, manifest for you, just in case somebody listening and they can...
Yeah, so it's called atrial fibrillation, and instead of you getting a regular beat, I get a lot of little beats sometimes. And amongst what they call endurance athletes, it's
quite common, isn't it?
It is quite common. It's like 5 times or 10 times more common than the general population.
Wow.
So obviously, working your heart for many years seems to cause some sort of issues, and it's particularly middle-aged, older runners or cyclists or skiers that it is a big issue with. For me, it comes and goes. As I say, I get an event and it happens. I feel out of breath for a day and then it goes back to normal. You can get a thing called ablation, so it's like an electrical thing that kills off some of the nerves, I think. And that's what a lot of people do, and it seems to work quite well. Moment for me, I'm trying to work out what the triggers are. So as you say, it could be coffee. I know alcohol sets it off. A stressful situation sets it off. So it's trying to work through that and trying to work out what causes it so it doesn't happen again.
Are you a bit kinder to yourself now, training-wise, and sort of listening to your body than before?
Very much so, yeah. So I used to just sort of run and just push myself as much as I can. Now I can feel, something coming on, either fatigue coming back or the heart issues, and so I sort of tend to put it down a notch, as it were. So I can still train big volumes, but it's a lot of slower stuff now, which is probably what you're meant to do training-wise, isn't it? Long endurance at a low level. So, that's probably what I'm doing with what you're meant to do, is sort of just pushing myself the whole time.
I think it's good.
What that Norwegian who got the 10K speed skate record. Have you read what his training is? And
he was doing something like 4 hours stuff every day. Was it 5 days a week? Is that right?
Yeah, huge volume, all easy, a lot easy stuff, but a massive amount of volume. And so actually I read it and I was like, yeah, I mean, if I had the time, 3 hours to me a day, I'm like, that's good. I'd take that off. But in the long term, as you know, Steve, you do need to, I think we're a little bit blasé when we're younger that we can get away with anything. And, but I thought it was really important to highlight the recovery of it, because as well, I think too many people do these huge things and then they come back, you see them within a week running or 2 weeks even running, and you're like, no, the body.
I've been there though, Eddie.
We live and learn.
Do you not think it's good that there's definitely a shift? Maybe even with work and stuff like that. There used to be like a badge of honor, burning the candle at both ends. But even with it's running now, recovery does seem to be as much an important part as the physical training itself. So I think it's quite a nice shift that people celebrate. You mentioned about getting 8 or 9 hours sleep. I love getting 8 or 9 hours sleep. If I'm in bed at 9:30, that's like a big thumbs up for the day. But like maybe a few years ago, that wasn't really how people approached training and running. But I'd love to. I never know how you train for such a big event. I know you mentioned I've got the Lakeland 100 this year, and hopefully a winter Bob Graham round. And you mentioned when your Lakeland 100 that you had your quads and everything was seizing up. I think maybe the second time you did it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, that's my goal.
Gary
really.
wants your training plan.
Well, no, I don't, because Steve's quads seized up. So my goal was to get around to Ambleside without my quads seizing up. But then when I was listening to the book, I'm thinking, oh my goodness me, Steve's quads seized up when he was doing the Lakeland 102. But how do you train for 100 miles? They're massive, but then even an event like a Wainwright's, is it a life journey to get to that point, or?
Yeah, I think it is a bit of you can't obviously just go out ahead and run that sort of distance. You've got to build it up over many years. And yeah, I think, you've got to get the hours in, and it doesn't have to be fast. I mean, a lot of people, go for long walks on the fells.
Yeah.
That's, if you go for an 8-hour quite fast walk on the fells, that's not going to tire you out too much the rest of the week, but you've got the distance in the legs. You're probably carrying a pack doing that. So it's actually having those hours, even if it's not fast, you've got the build-up of the strength of the leg muscles and stuff. So I think that's particularly something like Lakeland 100, because you're not going fast. Your heart will never be you never get anaerobic. You'll always be steady and
only just
reasonably
running
low
out
heart
of
rate.
Coniston when they
Yeah,
do this.
you fly out into Coniston. Would you always approach, say, something like Leighton 100, though? Would that be, when I did it, it was conversational paced, apart from maybe, say, some of the steeper climbs. Would that be how you'd approach that from an effort point of view?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you could go too. I mean, I'm sure 90% of people set off too fast and struggle for the second half.
Yeah.
As I say, if you just have it at a conversational pace, even walking up a hill, just the route out of Coniston, if you're just going up there, steady chatting away to someone, that's probably a good start. If you're losing 5-10 minutes on the first leg, that doesn't really matter because you can pick it up later on.
I need to,
particularly anyone thinking of doing
coming through, don't you? See those
yeah.
coming through.
I need to wind in that male ego for my next attempt.
I think so, yeah. It's just try and get that even pace, isn't it? Which is, I'm sure most people will be struggling in the last half. If you can keep it steady the whole way, then that's definitely much better. Something I've learned from sort of 30 years of doing stuff that I've got to now set off slower, be more sensible.
Well, I was just talking with this about this to friends the other day. Do you set up quick and hang on, or do you pace yourself? Because inevitably you are going to be tired at the end of, say, 100 mile. I still don't know the answer to that question.
I think most people do set off too quick, but there is that other school of thought, isn't there? That you should just set off fast and hang on. But I think to do that, you need to have done all the training.
You talked about your interval training as being a bit like a hangover.
Yes.
Can you explain that to the listeners a little bit?
When I do an interval training, it's like whatever, half hour, an hour of really hard work. But for the next 24 hours, you have that high, that euphoric sort of thing that, I feel great, I feel relaxed. So it's the opposite of a hangover where you have an hour of fun, drinking lots of beer, and then you feel 24 hours of hell because you've drunk too much. So it's much better because you get the long-term
reverse hangover,
short-term effort.
You talk about in the book as well, talking about hangovers, is that you went to a Durham nightclub and you were seen partying on the stage. I went to Durham Uni and I know there are only 2 nightclubs in Durham, so I did wonder what nightclub it was. You probably can't remember the name now.
No, it's somewhere in some sort of pedestrian area.
Yeah, I reckon it was Clute.
Yeah, it's going to be Clute, hasn't it?
I wondered as well if I was probably on the stage next to you, probably with a half a beer and throwing it over.
I
remember there was a VW van inside the club. Is that right?
Oh, I'm not too sure.
Gosh.
I think I could be wrong here, but is it Dominic Cummins used to manage the Clute?
Yeah, wasn't he the bouncer on the Clute?
No, I think he was. I think he managed it. I don't know. He's not a bouncer, is he? All going on in the Clute.
Oh, going on. My mum and dad are still upset that when you graduated, you were meant to take your parents there. And I was like, you really don't ever want to go. They still talk about it. We could have gone to Clute.
Are your children runners, Steve?
So they're not. We go walking on the fells with them quite often. And they do a bit of orienteering, which they seem to enjoy at the moment. That's 2 of them. The middle one enjoys walking on the fells, but much more happy playing on his computer at home.
Yeah,
like most teenagers.
Do they remember your round? Because you talk about the inspiration they were whenever they saw you on the round. Do they remember?
Yeah, I haven't actually asked. I'm sure they do. The older one, maybe my daughter doesn't, because she was probably only 6 or 7 at the time, so she probably remember bits of it. I'm sure they do. I don't remember how much. They haven't talked about it much. Maybe they'll remember sort of, because some of the time when I saw them, I was having my feet done, and that was quite painful.
Yeah.
And I was having to try and sort of show to them or pretend it wasn't hurting too much. So maybe they would have seen that and sort of taken that on board. I don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to ask them a bit at some point and just see what they think of it.
I'm sure it's in the background. It'll come out like with kids it does, doesn't it? They'll suddenly say something and you'll be like, oh, you do remember. Yeah. That is a hero. I knew it.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite nice because, a lot of people where we live, running is quite important, or fell running is quite an important thing. So,
yeah.
All their friends sort of know of me, if you see what I mean. So it's quite nice in that respect.
And where is your Dragon's Back trophy currently? Is it behind the sofa or is it on the mantelpiece?
Yeah, it used to be behind the sofa because my daughter thought that dragons lived in caves, but I put it now on the windowsill. So
Hey, it sounds like a wonderful trophy. Yeah.
Yes. It's just actually down the corridor there. But very nice trophy. It brings back great memories looking at that when I go past it every day.
Could I ask, could I do a bit of Bob Graham round nerd out? Is that okay, Steve? Now you got Blencathra right on your doorstep. So which way would you come off Blencathra? Perfect weather conditions.
On the Bob Graham round, I would come off in perfect weather conditions. I'd go down Hallsfell. Now I have my geeky side's coming out again. A few years ago, I tried 5 different routes off Blencathra.
Oh, 5. Okay.
All in perfect weather conditions to see which was fastest. And Hallsfell was about a minute faster than the other route.
Oh,
but obviously on the Bob Graham round, 80-90% of people will come down in the dark or in bad weather.
Yeah.
So it's never, no one's come down in the middle of the day. Most people come down just as dawn's approaching or in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
In that respect, then it's a tricky decision.
Stay on your feet.
There'll be a few Bob Grahams that have ended prematurely because of fast or the wrong descent of Blencathra. I'm really super curious with the parachute route. We've had a few guests on the show who've done that, and I still can't work it out. I'm kind of looked over the edge and I just think, I don't know where to go. I think I just end up being stuck halfway down.
That is the problem with that route, is that it can go really badly wrong if there's some bad ground there. I know Hallsfell's got some bad ground, big crags, but you're not going to go too far away from the ridge. Yeah. If you go down the parachute route, you can get stuck in some really bad gullies, and there's some nasty stuff there. It's quite there. I think someone supporting a Bob Graham fell down there and got quite badly injured.
That's correct. Yeah.
You've got to be really careful. I mean, in really bad weather, I would always go down Doddick Fell, which it's only a couple of minutes slower and it's pretty safe if you can find the top of it.
Yeah, I think we did Doddick when I did it. I was just curious. We were thinking about doing it anti-clockwise in the winter, so I suppose going up was not really.
Going up is Hallsfell, yeah.
Yeah. It's so slippery these days, though. If you just go down, it's really smooth in some places. And if it's wet, that's quite treacherous.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I say I go down Hallsfell, I actually keep slightly to the right of the ridge going down. There's a bit of some grassy, scree sections instead of on the craggy sections, so you can avoid the worst of it.
Next question. So I'm really geeking out now. If you're going up to Blencathra, so from, so you've done Calver. When I did it, I kind of went quite high up, then across the scree. But one of my support runners went pretty much right to the top, and then hit the path and then met us pretty much at the tarn. And I'd never done it that way, so I was a bit reluctant. I just kept to the scree, but I was super curious. Yeah, what you thought on that?
Yeah, I tend to sort of cut across the corner of the scree.
Okey-doke, brilliant.
It's got to be the fastest route.
Next one. Sorry, and last one. Would it be Broadstand or the West Wall Traverse Lord's Rake route?
Depends if you can climb, doesn't it? I can't climb very well, so I did have a friend that took me up that had a rope on Broadstand. So if you can find that, that's the fastest. West Wall Traverse, yeah, it's fine, or Fox's Tarn if you can. There's a climbers route, contours around Fox's Tarn. None of them are very pleasant.
And would you prefer I promise this is the last one. Do you prefer anti-clockwise or clockwise?
When I did it, well, I tried first time when I was quite young, clockwise, and then I did it, what was it? Must have been a long time ago, 20 odd years ago, I did it anti-clockwise, which is unusual these days. Just to have a nice, because if you're doing it anti-clockwise, you can start at a sensible time, like 7 in the morning.
Yes, that's a really good point.
But most support people know the clockwise way now, so it becomes sort of self-perpetuating because all the support team know that route. Yeah. So everyone's keen on going that way. I can see your certificate in the background there. Very nice.
Yay!
So proud. So proud.
I never stop talking about it, Steve. Any excuse, yeah. It was a wonderful day. Well, it was a wonderful day. That was the icing on the cake. It was a wonderful failed attempt, first of all, and just all the time on the fells with friends. And then now reciprocating and thanking people and joining people on their attempts too. Hopefully, like I say, this weekend is going to be another attempt if they get lucky with the weather. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, it was just a 3-year journey, I suppose, to get there. So it was great.
Yeah, I think that makes it even better, doesn't it? When you've sort of tried and failed before, and then you've done all the hours and you've done all the hard work and you've achieved your goal, but you spent 3 years trying. That's a brilliant thing, and it makes it all the better.
It was, yeah. It was a wonderful time. Well, that's me, Eddie. I've geeked out. Sorry, you back in the room.
What's next? Last question from us, apart from our quick five. What have you got planned for this year, Steve? Any running?
Lots of orienteering events, which I'm saying I'm enjoying now. I have got an entry for an ultra in the Lake District in June. Whether I'll do it or not, I'm not sure. Probably, if I'm feeling.
You still got the competitive drive?
Still very much so, yeah.
Love it, yes. Did you go back to Dragon's Back? Anything like that?
Oh, I had a attempt at the Dragon's Back last year, which ended really badly because this heart issue, this atrial fibrillation came on because I got really dehydrated, came on the last peak, and I was really struggling to breathe. So she had to call the mountain rescue out, and I got airlifted off. Spent 2 days in hospital until the heart went back to normal. So
okay.
That wasn't a very successful attempt.
But it was a very hot, wasn't it? Was that on day one?
That was on day one,
yeah. So just maybe tickle your toes back in the ultra world and hope for a cool day in June.
Hope for a cool day. I'm never
going to be Googling ultras in June in the Lake District.
Lakes in a day, 3 day. Oh, I'm trying to think in June.
Not Lakes in the Day. Can't be that one.
The new ultra, actually.
Oh my God, the new one.
I've seen it. I think Paul Wilson shared it on social media. Maybe it's the same one. Very good. Cool. I look forward to that. Well, thanks, Steve. It's been really generous of you giving up your time today. But we always end the show with our quick 5 questions. And you thought we went deep earlier. This is about as deep as it gets. This is
we know you love media. We know you love media and questions, so these are really going to test you.
Do you want to do them or should I do them?
Gary, you say that every time, and I know you love doing it.
I'm just being polite.
I know. Imagine if one day I say yes, you'd be like, you'll come off the Zoom call.
Shocked I want enough to do. Right. Okie dokie. Do you warm up or maybe do some dynamic stretches before you go for a run?
No.
No, of course he doesn't. He's Steve. Just logs off his computer, finishes his tea, and he's out the door.
Yeah, I start slowly, very slowly.
I start in a hobble now. I literally go down the road like an old lady, and then it does take me about 1 kilometre, half a mile to and I'm always like, just don't think about it, get moving, and then it just goes. So weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I do like the idea of the warm up. I do like some kind of a cool down walk. I do that sometimes with some activation in my ankles and stuff, but it's very inconsistent, unfortunately. Have you ever been lost on the fells? Proper lost? Well, not proper lost, but...
I can't think I ever have been proper lost. I was trying to think, one time I got a bit confused and I didn't have a compass, which was really stupid. Because if I've got a compass, then I'm never lost because I can always just follow the compass the right way and I'll end up in the right place. So I do remember on Heart of Fell in Eskdale running around for 15 minutes and then back exactly where I was 15 minutes earlier.
Oh my goodness.
Thinking I was going one direction and I obviously just looping around. Another time, I remember not being sure where I was and going the wrong way, but then the cloud lifted and I could immediately work out where I was. So, if I'd had a compass each time, I'd been fine, but it's just my lack of... I don't even need a map because most of the Lake District's sort of in my head map. But I do need a compass when the cloud comes down.
It's quite amazing how when the cloud comes down, how things that you think are so familiar become quite unfamiliar very, very quick. And it's like you could literally drift 5 or 10 meters, and it's like, well, we're completely over different terrain now. It's it's quite confusing.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you pull back the curtains, and you look at the weather. What would be your least favorite weather conditions to run in?
It would depend. So I know it's quick fire. There's not going to be a quick fire answer.
Is there anything quick fire when you see, like, you imagine everything thought about?
If it was a race I was doing, the worst weather would be a really hot, dry day with no wind. A humid day, actually, as well. I hate humid weather. But if I was out for training, that would be fine. If I was just out for a training run, then if it was wet, windy, and sleety, that wouldn't be much fun. But I'd go out. I just wouldn't
do it, don't you? You just have this space.
Zip it up.
Zip it up.
Yeah.
Do you prefer? I think I know the answer to this because you're not really a morning person. But do you prefer a sunrise or a sunset?
Yeah, sunsets are great. Sunrises are great, actually, if you've been out all night running through the night. And then the sun rises, then that is absolutely magical. Not often that happens, but, it does a few times helping Bob Graham's and on Wainwright's and things. And
the best bits, they're the best bits, aren't they?
It's a real treat. For people who've been, like, say, doing a 24-hour event, it's such a treat. If you get lucky with a sunrise, that is a magical moment. That is.
Your whole mood picks up, doesn't it, when you see the sunrise?
Time for tea. Time for a cup of tea.
Yeah.
You get those treats, don't you? You get the cloud inversion sometimes. It's really, it's a lovely time of day. Favorite Wainwright or Summit or Fell? If you had to pick one.
I think you picked up on this before because I live at the bottom of Blencathra. Blencathra's my sort of one because I wake up, walk out the door, and then I can see sort of Blencathra in front of me, and the sort of 5 ridges coming down to the valley. And it's a great mountain. So many different routes to the top. Looks special.
It is good, and it's good kind of because it's accessible. It's good bang for your buck. Some of them, it's quite a journey to get there. Gables and people like that. It's summits like that, but it's a good one. That. Very good. That's it. That is 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Awesome. Good. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. I love the book. Gary loved the book. There's No Map in Hell. Where can people buy the book if they want to read all about the journey?
Guess normal bookshops. The publisher's Vertebrates. I think you can buy it directly from them. So it's often good to buy stuff directly from the publishers because they get a bit more money, and it's a small little publisher.
It's an excellent audiobook as well, the chap that reads it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good because I can't stand, not the person itself, but I can't hear my words spoken by someone else. It's just impossible. I just can't listen to it.
He does actually sound quite a lot like you.
Does it? Oh, well,
I don't know about that, Eddie.
I listened to the introduction and say I can't listen to anymore. Nothing. That's not a criticism of him or anything. It's just that my words spoken by someone else. It's just.
Yeah,
I really love the recollection of the physical Wainwrights itself. I just thought the detail and people who've done similar events can really draw some of the emotions and the memories and experiences. Lots of similarities to the things that Eddie and I have done. It was really well done. It's great.
Good luck this year. We'll be looking out for you in June at your
yes.
And keep in touch. Thanks again, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, if you need some company for your long run and you've had enough of our twittering, the audiobook is really good of No Map in Hell, or if you're more of a hard copy, is that what we say? Yeah, Kindle version. Go and have a read of it. It's really inspirational. I think it's really good as well to sort of point you in when I think sometimes in ultra running we don't realize how much we have to suffer, or we forget how much we can suffer. So you read this book, you're feeling good company if you've got some big race coming up. And
there's always a little bit more in the tank, isn't there?
There's always a little bit more. Find a little bit of Steve Birkinshaw. This week, coming up, we've got the rearranged Montaigne Cheviot Goat Ultra. We saw Simon Roberts on the list, who won the North Spine Challenger. I forget all the names. So he's back in shape and going for the Cheviot Goat. Good luck if you're racing that this weekend.
Yeah, best of luck. And not this weekend, but it's an upcoming race. So, like, normally we give a shout out and good luck to everybody who's racing this weekend. But I thought this week we'd bring to your attention an event that is coming up and still open for entries. And that is the Dales Runner 30, and that's in July. And it's 3,000 feet of elevation from Swaledale up to the Tan Hill Inn. So that'll be awesome.
Goodness, I should be doing this.
Yeah, you should be. Yeah. So head over to dalesrunner.co.uk. And I know they've shared in our Facebook group too. So you should be able to find their website if you'd like to go and check them out. What have you got coming up this week?
Well, I've made some decisions, Gary, and I talked about doing 100K when I went back to England in a few weeks' time. Anyway, I've decided not to do it. Actually, it's good to read entries before you enter the race. It started at 6 o'clock in the morning. I know, and it's 2 hours from my sister's, and I just felt like, I was going to have to ask her to wake up and drive me there. I was like, can't do that. They're busy, they've got kids, and then I was like, well, I could get the train and then go and get a hotel, but then when I finish, I can't get, it's all just the logistics were too much money for a race that so I've decided it's not meant to be this time, so I'm not going to do that. So I slightly go back a few weeks, and I will just carry on with my normal training. It's going so well, feeling good. I did start some more plyometric-y stuff last week, so I did that again yesterday. It felt much better yesterday than it did the week before. Jumping, twisting.
Cool.
Oh, I'm just so bad at it, Gary.
Is that in the gym you would do that?
Yeah, I do a lot of step ups and side steps and all sorts of different variations of things. But I really hate box jumps and anything jumping. I don't know why. I think just because I'm tired and I just don't want to do jump off the box, I'm not an 8-year-old boy. Yeah. It doesn't feel
I don't enjoy it.
I think it's my rusty old bones, but it's really good for me, especially when I've just run on snow for months to get the dying elasticity back. So I did do it last week and I did it again today, but did feel a bit better yesterday. I just have to do it regularly, but it's one of those sessions where you just want to not do it. So it's really hard to motivate yourself.
Yes.
So nothing super exciting. It's a bit beige at the moment. It's all like, it's just day in, day out.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's feeling good. Keep it going. What about you?
Well, I'm not going to physio first. I'm not doing that. Not a lot, really. Lots of dog walking, so that will be good. Rex will enjoy that, although he does prefer to run, so he's not.
No, my dogs are like, we're going to need 24 walks today if you're not running.
But just super easy. There's nothing to be gained this week. More about the recovery, to be honest. I'm keen to get on the bike though, so maybe today I might get on to do a few Swifty sessions this week. But that is really it. I don't think I've got anything planned. Oh, I'm hoping to go to the lakes on Thursday to do a bit of filming over there. That would be nice if the weather holds. It was supposed to be yesterday, but the weather rained, so we didn't go. So fingers crossed that comes off. But other than that, just enjoying this time. I think this time is important as the training. Otherwise, if you kind of go into training fatigued without that proper rest, then where do you go from there, really?
You are
so I want to enjoy this moment, a few weeks, and then hopefully kick on into training 2 or 3 weeks' time.
We got a birthday shout out.
Yay!
Peter Cloudhalfer. We've debated how to say your name, Peter. So just tell us on Facebook if we said it right. Happy birthday for the end of March. He is. Should we say how old he is? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But he says he feels like 40. I bet you. 21, feel like 21. You can have those tests, can't you, where you can see the age of your body, like chronologically. Yeah. But how the actual, oh my God, I'd hate to do that to my body. It'd be like, you're 42, but your body is 63.
Super interesting though, wouldn't it? See where you are.
It'd be really interesting to see if this endurance sport is how bad or good it is for your body. Do you wonder that?
I don't think it's any worse. Anecdotally, I observe my friends who are sedate, and I think I'm doing better than those guys are. I think for sure. Yeah, definitely. But happy birthday, Peter, and thanks for reaching out.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. That was episode 81. We've just looked. We haven't got any 5-star reviews. We've got nothing to finish the show. Come on, get on there. 32 seconds. Well,
It does. I know we make light of it, but it really does help on Apple Podcasts.
Keep us our jobs. Pop on there, 5-star review. You don't need to mention Gary. You can just say Eddie makes this show. Thanks again for Chia Charge for sponsoring the show. That was episode 81. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's run to the hills.